Just after a few minutes. Just a few minutes. ॐ सदा स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयं यस्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च bhutasangah. I constantly meditate within my heart on the self-effulgent Atman, the existence, knowledge, bliss absolute, the goal of great ascetics, the transcendent and the eternal, who is beyond the states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. I am verily that indivisible Brahman, and not a combination of material elements. We are studying Atma Bodha, self-knowledge. This is the third talk. In this talk, in this few verses, Sankaracharya is teaching us how to reason, the line of reasoning according to Advaita Vedanta, and how to discriminate. This is what he is trying to teach us. And in order to make the point clear, he has quite a few times repeated. The repetition of the idea is there, which is not anything wrong with scriptural texts, since the topic is very subtle, not easily understandable. So repetition is very, very necessary. Before going into it, a few points I always prefer you to remember. That is the definition of truth. What is truth? The truth about ourselves, about the universe, or about the reality. What is the truth? The definition of truth is Trikala Bhadita Satya. Truth is that which does not undergo any change in all the three phases of time, past, present, and future. That which is real is constant and invariable, not subject to mutation. So it goes without saying, what is unreal? Anrita? That which is not constant, and that which varies always, constantly changing. So unreal in the sense, the Vedanta doesn't say something like a horns of the rabbit, which we all know. Rabbits don't have horns, nor the cluster of flowers hanging in the sky. They don't hang in the sky. It's not something like that. In Vedanta, unreal means impermanence. That which is not at all steady, that which is always fluctuating. That's why samsara, the word is called as samsara. Means samyak sarati, constantly changing. That is called as samsara. So unreal is that which is not constant and which is subject to variation. Then what is the nature of this universe and its beings? In Brahma Sutra introduction, Sankaracharya says, Satyanatham mithini kritya. This universe is a combination, mixture of real and unreal. Real and unreal, both are mixed. How? The substratum of the universe is nothing but Brahman. Brahman is the only reality. The world is apparent, an apparent transformation, not real transformation. Or rather, you can say the universe is superimposed on Brahman. So the universe is the upadhi, the adjunct of Brahman. And our own body and mind is the upadhi or adjunct of the Atma. the individualized self. Both. The world is the apparent transformation of Brahman. Our own body and mind is the apparent transformation of the Atma. So this is the nature of the universe. And this brings to the idea of superimposition, adhyasa, or adhyaropa, they say. That is, there is a reality, and on that, something has been superimposed. And we all know the famous example is the rope and the snake. The rope has to be there. If not, there can be no illusion. There's no rope and there can be any illusion. We just keep going. We don't even bother. Only when there is rope and when it is not, certain conditions are there where it can be easily mistaken. Then we mistake it to be as the snake. So the truth should be there. Reality should be there. Brahman should be there. And ignorance should be there in order to superimpose world. There should be a darkness, twilight like, not bright light. If there is bright light, anyone can say that it's a rope. It's only when darkness and light, that is Satya and Rita, darkness and brightness, both are there. Light and darkness is there. And at such a time, it's easy for us to mistake. That is what the world is. These few things we ought to remember. Shall I press it, Robert? Now you can turn on. We had studied this chart, but still I would like to get it. The chart, last time we had studied about this. Shall I press? Yeah. This is a simple chart. The infinite Brahman of the nature of pure consciousness, existence, consciousness, bliss is there. When it is conditioned by space, time, causation, then that is the ignorance. Space, time, and causation is then the Saguna Brahma comes, or the Buddhi comes into. The reflection of the pure consciousness on the Buddhi is the Jiva. And how to ascertain the Atman? There are three ways of doing it. First is analyze the three bodies: the gross body, subtle body, and causal body. Atman is beyond the three bodies. Dehatraya vilakshana. It's beyond the three bodies. And then, or we can analyze it through the 5 sheets. The sheet, physical sheet, the vital sheet, the mental sheet, the intellectual sheet, and the bliss sheet of bliss. All these 5 sheets. So, Atman is Pancha Kosha Vilakshana, that which is beyond 5 sheets. Or you can even arrive at the Atman through the analysis of 3 states of mind: the waking, the dream, and the dream. Avasthatraya Sakshi. So, Dehatraya Vilakshana, Panchakosha Vilakshana, Avasthatraya Sakshi. Atman is that which is beyond the 3 bodies, beyond the 5 sheets, and beyond the 3 states of mind. With this, we start the Atma Bodha. Verse 15. Vapustushadebhik koshait yuktam yuktavagathataha atmanamantaram shuddham vivichyatandulam yatha. Vapustushadebhik koshaihi yuktam yuktavagathataha atmanamantaram shuddham vivichyatandulam yatha. One should, through discrimination, separate the pure and inmost self from the sheath by which it is covered, as one separates a rice kernel from the covering husk by striking it with a pestle. So we know the rice has two sheets. One is the bran and the husk. The husk is the outer core, hard, rough, which can be easily separated. Just if we have sharp nails, we can pull it out. But there is a subtle covering, what we call bran. That is very, very difficult to separate. You have to very, very delicately, you have to pestle. If you give strong, it will become rice powder. So it is very subtle. So gross body, we can easily understand. This is non-eternal. It has come into existence, it will go away. But when the sheets or the things become more subtle, it's very, very difficult to separate. Body we can understand to a certain extent. But how do we separate ourselves with the mind and intellect? It's so subtle. We identify ourselves. I say I'm Atman. Next minute, I'm really angry. I am really angry. I became angry. I am sad. I'm really sad. See, I'm Atman, but I become really sad. How we immediately get identified with this emotions and we become one with it. It's very hard until and unless we constantly discriminate. That is why in one of the texts, I can't remember which text is, Asupter, Amrityur, Nayeta Vedanta Chintanam, Advaita Siddhi, I think so. This is Vedic shit. Asupter, as long as you don't fall asleep, as long as you are alive, you need to constantly discriminate. The sword of discrimination should be always near the pillow. Our Mataji used to do. Keep the sword of the discrimination with you near your pillow. Even in dream, if you deviate, immediately, the intellect should be so strong, alert. Jagrata, Jagrata. Always be alert and discriminate. She used to say, keep the sword of discrimination near your pillow and sleep, so that even in dream you do not deviate from the truth. Such is the importance of discrimination in Vedanta. That is why Viveka Chudamani, the crust jewel of Viveka. This rice has only 2 sheets, but we have 5 sheets. A bit of study on the sheets is very necessary. You all know. I also, 5 sheets. Annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manomaya, jnanamaya, anandamaya kosha. There's 5 koshas. It's not so easy. There is a deep study has to be done. So we can't do much, but little bit I will try to go through it. So Annamaya kosha. We also in the introduction chart I showed you 5 koshas. So the first one is Annamaya kosha, physical sheath, the body. This sheath constitutes a gross body which we have, and it is produced by gross elements. Last class we had the big chart of the 5 elements, unmixed, mixed. So mixed 5 elements are called as gross elements. Mahabhuta. Mahabhuta. Out of that, this body is created. See, some people have are accustomed, what do you call, they have the Vata Sharira. What do we say for Vata Shariras? They have more wind type of thing in the body. Sometimes people have acidity and sometimes people have Pitta. All these are all. So if there is a variation in these elements, we are susceptible to it. You get a lot of rheumatism, this and that out of Vata. And then people have, what do you call this, gas problem, suffering, pain. It's because of this Vayu. So a little bit variation in these elements, the body, we all have some sort of variations. Excess. So this all we have. But generally, this body is made of this 5 elements because there are only 5 sense objects. That is why they have limited it only to 5 elements. How the observation of the rishis, you see how it is. So this body is made of flesh, bone, blood, and other ingredients, and it is dependent on food. As long as it can assimilate food, it survives, it exists. If not, it doesn't. It's transitory. Prior to the birth, it was not there, and after that, it won't be there. Hence, it is changeable. In its very nature, it's changeable. The baby, the youth, the adult, and the age, all this, everything is different. So this itself shows that it is not real. It is not the Atman. Atman is different from this because Atman is ever steady, ever same. So this is one way of analyzing and overcoming the pull of the body. Discriminate, analyze, and stand aside and let one's own body be the object of observation. It is seen, drishya. You are the drik. It is you who are animating this body. You who are enlivening the body because you are, in essence, pure consciousness. This is what Shankara is telling us. The next is pranamaya kosha. That is a gross. This is little subtler than the gross sheath, physical sheath. And what does it do? It impels this body to activity, to action. And it's a modification of prana. And there are 5 pranas, the modifications of prana, in 5 ways they function in our body. In the last chart, we had mentioned about it, the 5 prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, what all they do. They are there. And this is also a product of ignorance, prakriti. And it is also impermanent, insentient. See, it's a life principle. When we see a plant, oh, there is life in it because you can see it's still green, life is there. But Vedanta says even it is insentient because it's a product of prakriti. It enters with the conception and immediately at the time of death, it walks out of the body. Prana gaya, we say. The prana has left the body immediately at the time of death, it walks out. And this is the one which produces the feeling of hunger, thirst, yawning, all these sort of things. And hence, this cannot be the Atma. Naturally, we will think, when a person dies, we say the life has left the body. So we will think that might be the truth. No. According to Vedanta, even that is material. Then comes the Manomaya Kosha, the sheath of mind. This is still subtler, finer than the sheath of prana. And when the self, the Atman, identifies itself with the mind, it feels the diversity of I and you, all the different name and forms, the whole universe. And it is the sea of desires, bed of desires. And the phenomenal universe, the whole universe, has no existence apart from the mind. No mind, no universe. And mind is also one of the evolutes of Prakriti. It's a product of ignorance. Prakriti is always ignorance. Pure consciousness alone is Brahman, the reality. When the mind gets agitated, it becomes by desires, then it becomes aware of the sense object and it enjoys and it gets attached. So this mind, when stained by desire, can create bondage. At the same time, this very mind, freed from it, can show us the path to liberation, to freedom. Manaveva Manushyanam Bandhetu. So for the bondage and liberation, mind alone is the cause. Mind stained by desires will lead to bondage. Mind freed from desires will lead us to knowledge. Swami Brahmananda used to say, as we keep practicing our spiritual disciplines, the mind alone will become the teacher. Mind will become the guru and will teach us, do this, don't do that. It will guide us. So our immediate goal, there is an goal which we ultimately want, ultimate goal, an immediate goal. Immediate goal is the purification of the mind. All our spiritual practices has this one end, that is purification of the mind. Holy Mother says, is God vegetable that you do this much of japa and get him? No. Then what is the meaning of doing all this meditation, spiritual practices, japam and this, that? It's only to make our mind pure so that it gets the capacity to understand the truth. And Holy Mother says about Viveka, she speaks of an higher Viveka. She says, what does happen when one realizes God? What does happen? Does anyone grow two horns? No. One immediately understands what is real, what is unreal. The mother, what she speaks of renunciation, discrimination, is a higher discrimination, not the discrimination what we do. No, because we have no idea of truth. Discrimination, what mother speaks, is the higher form of truth. When it comes immediately, the sadhaka, the aspirant understands and discards and takes. We have for Swami Vivekananda Stotram, Anitya Drishyesha Vivicha Nityam. Anything coming in front, he can just cut it into pieces and divide it. This is real, this is unreal. Nothing can fool him. That's what Sri Ramakrishna used to say. Swami Vivekananda, Mahamaya stands 10 feet away from him. She can't go. Because his vision, his understanding is so penetrating, it can just break the very crust of name and form and take asti bhati priya. You know, that we read 5 things are needed for you to perceive the world. 3 is the innate reality, that is asti bhati priya and nama rupa. When anything comes, Swamiji's intellect had such a capacity, it can break the crust and see the reality within. So this is the degree of discrimination we need to cultivate in order to have our freedom. So what is needed is, as the American this thing says, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Then comes Vijnanamaya Kosha, still subtler than that. The sheath of intelligence. Buddhi is the determinative faculty of the Anthakarna. It's also one of the function of. See, Anthakarna, inner organ, is one. And according to the function it does at that particular moment, we designate it as mind or the chitta or the buddhi or the ahankara. Mano buddhya ahankara chittani naham. We sing, isn't it? Chidananda rupa shivoham shiv. Mano buddhi ahankara chitta. These are all the 4 are anthakarnas. And it's when it determines, exactly understands, when it studies the pros and cons of things, fluctuating, not steady, then we call it mind. Mind is also fickle, always fickle. But whereas when the buddhi takes into control, this is the course of action I'm going to take. So this kind of determination, determinative faculty is called as buddhi. But still, it's a product of Prakriti, and it is Jada. But though insentient, it's by its nature, it appears to be conscious, intelligent, because it's very, very close to the pure consciousness, Atman. Sankaracharya calls it Nedishtam Brahma, very close. So when the reflection of the pure consciousness falls on the buddhi, then it gets a notion of jivahood comes. That is, I am an entity. I conscious, I am an entity. I'm a person, I'm a conscious entity. So this sort of I feeling comes. It is the reflection of the pure consciousness on the buddhi, chidabhasa. In the Advaitic tradition, it's called as. So because of this I consciousness, because of its identification with this buddhi, it gets this jivahood, and naturally desires are there, and life, transmigration, the different bodies it goes to in order to fulfill the desires of the previous life. But all this happiness, unhappiness, all these experiences are only in the waking and dream state. In deep sleep, the buddhi doesn't function. Why? It gets resolved in the prakriti, in the ignorance. Hence, no feeling of sorrow, no feeling of anything outside, pain, nothing, and sense of bliss is felt. It is, what do you call? Yeah, through buddhi only we understand that. And this shows that unattached, nirlipta, actionless, formless Atman can never be buddhi. Can never. So this sort of discrimination we have done. We have come to still further, the fifth kosha, sheath. Very subtle, very deep, and that is the Anandamaya kosha. The bliss of, the sheath of bliss. Its finest sheath than the intelligence. But we should remember, wonderful Mataji, we are getting bliss. Why can't we be happy with this? We should not confuse this bliss with the Brahmananda. It is also the product of ignorance. Avyakta, it is. And hence, it is also unreal. But this sheath manifests itself by catching the reflection of the Atman's pure bliss. In buddhi, the reflection of the intelligence was there. Pure chit was reflected. Here, pure ananda is reflected. Since it's a kosha, so the pure atmic bliss you don't get, but to certain extents we get. And what's the character of this bliss? Pleasure and rest. See, there is a sense of happiness, bliss, when a certain righteous person or a sadhaka goes through his spiritual practices, when the mind is comparatively settled, shama sukha comes. So to a small extent, in a sattvic person, you can see this happiness. But in majority, this bliss comes when when we come into contact with something agreeable, something pleasurable, something which we like. So the joy comes. See, the joy is not actually in the product, in the object. The object is what we like, and that gives us the bliss. So the bliss from within is manifested. As it is, the thing doesn't have, supposing a person of dispassion or nisprihasya trinam jagat, they say. Nisprihasya trinam jagat. For a man of desirelessness, for a person, this world is nothing but a straw. It doesn't care. That shows that value is not in that. It's We who give value for it. If we have something higher, it is too subtle and too boring. Let me tell you a story. It's in the devotional scriptures. One of the disciple or a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, and he was such a great soul, constantly chanting the name of God. So somebody wanted to allure him from that path. So this happens. Somebody will be always there to bother us. So a person was hired, a bad woman, a prostitute or whatever it was hired to allure this person. So she was called as Lakshahira. 1 lakh of diamond you have to give. So such a costly person she is. And she came there and he told her, sit there. He started repeating because he has to repeat 1 lakh times God's name. So by the time 1 lakh he finished, it's again morning. So sorry, I have to finish. 1 lakh again started. And the lady said, and the third day what happened? There was a transformation in the lady. Then she asked, what is that you have which is making you to discard me? That means just that she has no worth for him. Because worth is always personal. If I value it, I worth it. Anything nothing has value in itself. Long back, one of our doctor, he's very, atheist type, very cynical too. He was very surprised that I joined the order. So he came to see me. And so I spoke to him. I just gave him one small advice. Don't die before reading Vedanta, reading Swami Vivekananda's complete works. At least if we can't do anything, don't die without reading Swamiji's complete works. He thinks he is very intellectual. So I said, better read this and then you prove your intelligence. That was a piece of advice. And then he was a bit mellowed by that. And then later on, Swami Ranganathananda Maharaj had come to Bangalore. He was coming. So we had put in the paper that he is going to come and all that. So I rang this doctor. If you want, you may attend it. And he asked me, is it worth attending? Look at the arrogance. For ignorance is what it is. And I said, nothing has in the world worth. There is no worth in anything. It is you who you give. And you worth what is very, very important. It's your need, your desires, your need is what makes it things worth. So if you want, it is worthy. If not, nothing is worth. Even God is of no use for people who are interested in the world. Isn't it? Only those who seek, those who have understood the worthlessness of the world, seek something higher. And so, this Anandamaya Kosha, it's a bit a partial manifestation of it is in the wakings and in the dream state. When we come into contact with the objects, what we love, we desire. So that joy comes from within. And its fullest manifestation is experienced in deep sleep. When we are in deep sleep, when one remains totally unaware of pain and sorrow or anything, absolutely. The objective world is not there. There's nothing. And only the self shines. Naturally, we have a very sound sleep. This is the nature's way of sustaining this organism. If we do not come in contact with our true nature, this whole body, mind, organism will be shattered. It can't. At some moment of the day or night, one has to be in one's own nature. But what happens is, that's the difference between the samadhi and the deep sleep. In deep sleep, we have not worked our mind, our buddhi, Hence, the ignorance is there. So what? Suspension. The mind is suspended. The buddhi is suspended. It is resolved into the avidya, ignorance. That's why when we come back out of deep sleep, we are what we are. There is absolutely no change in our degree of knowledge. We are the same. A fool enters the sushupti, comes back as fool. But a sadhaka who has worked on himself tirelessly, life after life, and has come to a position where the mind and the buddhi have become so subtle and they merge. And when he comes out, he has become wise. A hunter enters into that state, becomes a Valmiki. That's the transformation. It comes. So transformation of consciousness, transformation of character is the criterion, is the test that whether we have truly transcended these koshas. So that much for the explanation of that. So we need to pestle, slowly work on ourselves and come to separate the kosha, the barn from the rice. Oh, सदा सर्वगतोऽप्यात्मा न सर्वत्रावभासते बुद्धावेवाभासते स्वच्छेषु प्रतिबिम्बवत् सदा सर्वगतोऽपि आत्मा न सर्वत्र अवभासते बुद्धावेव भासते स्वच्छेषु प्रतिबिम्बवत्. Though all-pervading Atman does not shine in everything, it is manifest only in buddhi, like the reflection in clear water or in a stainless mirror. The self is all-pervading. We all know it's infinite, all-pervading. It interpenetrates through all the koshas. And all things, moving, unmoving, living, non-living, everything it encompasses. But its manifestation is clear in and distinct in the intellect. Sri Ramakrishna says the rays of light, the sun, is everywhere, but it's reflected very clearly in the mirror. So when the buddhi is very clear, it reflects the whole light of the Atma. That is why Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Shuddha Buddhi, Shuddha Atma, Shuddha Mon Ak. It's one and the same. Pure intelligence, pure Atman, and pure mind is one and the same. Because there's no obstruction. It just becomes so fine, so subtle, so transparent that it reflects the whole light of the self. Dehendriya mano buddhi prakrtibhyo vilakṣanam tadvritti sakshinam vidyat atmanam rajavat sada. Dehendriya mano buddhi prakrtibhyo vilakṣanam tadvritti sakshinam vidyat atmanam rajavat sada. Realize Atman to be distinct from the body, sense organs, mind, and buddhi, and non-differentiated prakriti, the mula prakriti, but the witness of their function comparable to a king. How beautifully it has been said. As I said, the soul, though interpenetrates the body, sense organs, everything, yet it is totally different from them. Because Atman is changeless, ever pure, infinite, and hence, though it dwells in the body, it is the Sakshi. This is the what Ranganathananda Maharaj, first I heard from him. Cultivate the Sakshi awareness always. Cultivate the Sakshi awareness. Be a witness of all what you do, what you think. So if we start practicing this Sakshi awareness, the witness attitude, just even for few minutes in a day, the mind cannot cheat us. Immediately we can understand the mind is playing fool with us. And that is how we gain mastery over it. Practice, practice, practice. What is spiritual practice then? These are the spiritual practice. Bit, going on, repeating the name and drowsy sleeping. No. Name has its value. Name will give you power. But this is active discrimination, active dispassion. Very practical. We have to put ourselves into test and see whether it is workable. That's why when Sri Ramakrishna told his teacher, Totapuri, sannyas, you are asking me to sannyas, but I'm a married man. I have a young wife at home. He said, that is the best thing. You can know how much renunciation, how much purity, how much of knowledge you have got. This is the test. See? So constant discrimination. Constantly we need to do this. Hence, it's compared, the Atman is compared to the king. And how do we discriminate? I told you in the beginning, what is truth? That which is constant and that which is doesn't vary. That is the truth. When this, it has to enter into our understanding very clearly. And then, so this is an adjunct. You become aware that you are the Sakshi. You are like a king. Rajavatsada. In the court, in the palace, in the king's court, the king sits on his throne and the ministers and everybody is there. All are functioning, all are working. And the king supervises, sees what they are doing. He is not going into working out the problems. There are others to do it. He is the topmost person. So it's like the Atman. It doesn't go and involve itself. The man, all the other things function, but it's like a king. In the same way, this Atman is the witness. We have to take stand on that and make this body, mind, intellect our servant. This is called as mastery, self-mastery. 18th. Yeah? व्यापृतेष्विन्द्रियेष्वात्मा व्यापारी वा विवेकिनां दृश्यते अभ्रुवत् अभ्रेषु धावत्सु धावन्निव यथा शशि. As the moon appears to be moving when the clouds move in the sky, so also to the non-discriminating, Atman appears to be active when in reality the senses are active. As the moon appears to be moving, it's so simple. It's how so easy. Any fool can understand this. The moon is always static. It's the clouds that move. See? But when it comes to our personal spiritual life, we don't understand that. How a man of realization will say, what's how foolish. These people are identifying themselves with the mind. One example in Sri Ramakrishna's life. In rainy season, there used to be a lot of rain and the Dakshineshwar temple garden will be full of grass. And the authorities would ask the people, the villagers, to come and cut the grass and take and go. So one old man came with a big gunny bag. The whole day he started cutting the grass. Greed, let me take more so that I can feed the cows. So he filled the bag so much, just nicely filled it. And by evening, he wanted to go home. He was trying to lift it. Couldn't. Emaciated old man. Again lifting, can't. And Sri Ramakrishna saw from his room and he was so surprised. And Sri Ramakrishna at those days used to be in very ecstatic mood. So he said, "Oh Ram, so much of intelligence within and so much ignorance outside." See? When we see the clouds moving and children say, "Mom, the moon is moving." And we laugh at the children and say, "Oh dear, it is not. Its moon is not moving. It's the clouds." But here, see, the same thing. The man is ignorant outside and pure knowledge, Atman, of the nature of pure consciousness is within. So Sri Ramakrishna, as soon as he saw this phenomenon, he fainted. How sad, the pity. He was overcome by compassion. So this is how this is the simplest mistake. We all do it. Outside so much of ignorance, but within is the knowledge. So the Atman, as Atman, we are stainless, free from Maya. So there is no doership, no enjoyership. There's only one, knower. As knower, we are the eternal knowers. We are not the known. See, kartritva, bhoktritva, jnatra. Karta, bhokta, jnata. Jnata is the true, the knower. Enjoyer, doer belongs to ignorance. As a knower, because I am that is why we can't know the Atman, because we are the knowers. We know the whole world, everything other than that. You can't know the Atman. Why? How can the knower know the Atman? You are the Atman. If I have to see, you all are seeing me. If I have to see my face, I have to take a mirror and see. There's no other alternate. Only reflected consciousness is what we are aware of. The true Atman is eternal seer. And that's why Jnatra, as a Jnatra, we can understand that we are the knowers, but we are not bhoktas. The enjoyers are the kartas, the doers. These things are, this is what discrimination ultimately means. So the moon is constant. It's the clouds that go. I am the eternal witness of all that's happening in my body, mind, intellect. So I stand aside and observe it. And I take things in my hands. Atma chaitanyamashritya dehendriya manodhiyah swakriyartheshu vartante surya lokam yatha janah. The body, senses, mind, and buddhi engage in the respective activities with the help of consciousness, which is inherent in Atman. Just as men work with the help of the light that is inherent in the sun. Sun's light is there, or at other time, this light is there, we do. If that is not there, our function, we can't. We can't function. Absolutely imagine there is no candles, there is no oil lamp, there's nothing. Absolute darkness. What would you do? You won't move, because if you move, you'll break your head and bones. So what we do? We sit quietly. This is the only thing we can do. All actions come to stand still. In the same way, if Atma Chaitanyam is not there, the body can't even move. Somebody has to, four of them has to take and lift it. But the same, when the Chaitanya is there, consciousness is there, how we can even thrash the people. This is how it goes. So, and this movement comes because of the consciousness, the Chaitanya Vidyan. Like we get a magnet and all the iron fillings which are near gets attracted. So the proximity of the magnet makes the movement in the In the same way, the Chaitanya, the consciousness in us, makes for all the functions of body, mind, intellect, ego. Apart from that, they don't have any existence of their own. Dehendriya gunani karmani amale satchidatmani adhyasyantya vivekena gagane nilatadivat. I told you Shankaracharya repeats a lot. Same idea he's expressing in a different way. Fools, through non-discrimination, superimpose on the stainless Atman, which is existence and consciousness absolute, the characteristics and functions of the body, the senses, just as people attribute such traits as blueness on concavity to the sky. Very simple, very clear understanding. And what are the characteristics of the functions of the body? Shad Vikaratmaka, the body is. It's born, jayate. Having born, it gets its individuality. Asti, I exist. Child exists. You know, as soon as the baby is born, it is the whole attention of the family is on it. That they become the important person. So that individuality comes. Asti. Then vardhate, it grows. Then it matures, viparinimate. Then apakshiyate, it starts degenerating. Then nashyate. So all the six vikaras or changes, these are the characteristics of the body. And the functions, of course, we know all the functions. All this happens. But what we do? I go, I eat, I scold, I laugh, I enjoy. Everything is attributed to the body and mind. It is only sheer ignorance. It's already. Ajnanan manasopadhe kartritvadini chatmani kalpyante ambugate chandre chalanadi yathambhasah. As the movement that belongs to water is attributed through ignorance to the moon reflected in it, so also agency, enjoyment, and other limitations which belong to the mind are falsely attributed to Atman. The same idea. The Atman, which is one without the second, infinite, devoid of I consciousness, to it we attribute agency, I, which is experienced as individualized self. It's apparent. The soul is falsely attributed. We attribute this falsely on the Atman. In dream, when the mind functions, one sees the ego. In the waking state, we feel this ego. And in the dream state also, that ego is there. In the dream state, that's why we do all sorts of, it's just the same as the waking state, except that the time and space are completely different. In dream, in a few seconds, we can go around the world and come. We have traveled all just in one night, we can finish it. That's only space and time differs. That's all in a dream. Other than that, all the experience is same. The sukha, dukkha, the misery, the happiness, everything is same. So almost it's the same. The ego persists even in the dream state. But what happens? But it does not have its existence in the deep sleep. So this, when we understand this, the, what do you call, the dirt or the goodness, whatever of the mind and body does not affect the Atman. How? Just like the water seen in the mirage does not have anything to do with the sand. Not a single grain of sand is soaked or moist by the water that is seen in the mirage. Nothing. So the Atman is never polluted. So you have to separate yourself. This is what Shankara has. You are the witness. You don't attribute the karmani of the body and mind to the Atman. If you do it, it is like in the water, the reflection of the moon is there. And then what we do? We go and disturb the water, and the moon's reflection also changes. It also is disturbed. And little children who do not know, they think the moon is shaking. So, Balavad Buddhi, who have, they do this mistake. That's what Shankara is telling us. Ragecha sukha dukkadhe buddhau satyam pravartate sushuptau nasti tannashe tasmad buddheshu natmanah. Attachment, desire, pleasure, pain, and the rest are perceived to exist as long as buddhi and the mind functions. They are not perceived in deep sleep. When the mind ceases to exist, therefore, they belong to the mind alone and not to the Atman. So this, why Shankaracharya is saying this is because there is a philosophy called Vaisheshika, wherein it says, these are the attributes of the Atma. It's in refutation with that school, Shankara is mentioning it again and again. These are the attributes of the body and mind and intellect, not in the Atman. Why? If it was in the Atman, if the Atman was had this sorrow or happy, desire, pain, all this was there. In Sushupti, it would have experienced. See, in the waking state, the mind and intellect is functioning. Hence, we all have all these feelings, all the emotions, all these things are real for us. But when one enters into deep sleep, which occurs whether we are aware of it or not, every one of us go into this every day, every night. The jiva, by itself, it is designed. There we get regenerated. All the energy comes back. Nature has made this for us. If not, the world and its suffering would have been so much that it would be difficult for us to cope up. So the body, mind gets rest in this deep sleep and comes in contact with that ever pure self. And that's how the whole system gets regenerated. So whether we know it or not, this experience is always happening with us. And if these sorrow, these desires and pleasures and attachments, if they were true, Atman's real attitude, this would not have happened. It would have been even in the deep sleep also. The very fact these are not present in the deep sleep shows that this does not belong to the Atman. This is how we discriminate. This is the line of reasoning these few shlokas have been teaching us. How to reason, how to overcome. So always we need to keep the sword of discrimination alert and work out a long path, very difficult, but very interesting, provided we have the vividisha, the desire to know and feel the blessedness. Thank you.
So we've got time for some questions, answers, discussion. Those of you on Zoom, you're able to join in too. We'll be able to hear you if you have any questions.
Sridharaprana, a really good talk. And this is a question related to something that you said earlier on. You said that when the mind becomes purified, it becomes your teacher and it guides you. So I just wanted to know, when you do receive this guidance, how do you know if it's true or false? You know, because you could be deluded into thinking that you've been rightly guided when it might be false, and vice versa.
True. But they say phalena parichyate, by the results. If my actions are pure, And if it is conducive to others and to me, then it is true. This is the test. And another thing is, this is something called as Vedya. We ourselves understand it. We ourselves understand it. And this guidance does not come until unless the mind is very, very pure. Very pure. There is no question of delusion at all. There is no question of what do you call, what is that word they say? What Swamiji said to Sri Ramakrishna? Hallucination or something like that. No, this is crystal clear mind. To come to this state, it should be desireless. That itself is a big step. That itself is the proof, because we have no ultimate selfishness. And so the mind cannot play cook with us. It cannot. So the mind becomes teacher only when we have worked on it through practice of discrimination, detachment, prayer, meditation. With all that, I don't think so ever the mind will cheat us. No. Because the light of the Atman is falling on it. So it will not deviate from the path of. But even for, as you said, somebody may think that the test is, are we becoming unselfish? Are our actions pure? Are we having peace and joy within and radiate it? These are the outer things. But truly, if a person is truly has worked on him and the mind has come to that state, that person himself or herself, this aspirant understands. Swaswam Vedya. It's known to us. But the test is purity, unselfishness, whether the mind is constantly towards God happens. I had asked one of our Mataji, how do we know that we are progressing in the path of God? She said, first thing is, nobody need to force, you need not force yourself to remember God. Oh, I should do japa, I should sit and call on God. Automatically in the mind. So what is done with great hardship, with effort, sadhana, becomes spontaneity. Spontaneously we think of God. And it does not become something that has to be done or something happens spontaneously. If we look after the trees and plants, even they yield fruit. So if we love God, won't God bless us with joy and purity and devotion, and won't He draw us? Will the mind cheat? So the test is, you spontaneously remember God and you find a joy. That's what she said. So that's also same answer. The mind is becoming the teacher and it is teaching us.
Thanks. Beautiful talk, Mataji. You gave some lovely anecdotes. Can you please elaborate a little on the following three? First, Sri Ramakrishna said about Swamiji that he could penetrate a person and dissect
Yeah.
Asti Bhati Kriya. Then
Yeah, it's just no. What Swamiji was, Sri Ramakrishna said, Swamiji is such a person that Mahamaya, the deluding power of the universe, because of which we see the world and the beings, cannot delude. We don't see the world as Brahman. We see the world as diversity. But for Swamiji, the world was nothing but God, Brahman. So this was his natural state. So Mahamaya, he says, so he was forced, he was brought from such a realm, from such a high level for our sake, he was brought. But what happens, such is the world, Sri Ramakrishna says, of course, it is self-imposed. The avatars impose on themselves. It's self-imposed limitation. Like Sri Ramakrishna says, Sri Rama cried when Sita was abducted. He cried. So Sri Ramakrishna had this cancer. He also sometimes would become overwhelmed with this suffering. It's a part. So that's just to show us this can happen, this happens. And we need to endure for that sake. So Swamiji also had come. And there is chances that we can get into it. The Mahamaya such she can, but with Swamiji, such was his personality, she would stand 10 feet away from him. That's how Sri Ramakrishna always appreciated Vivekananda. But here, this stava in the hymn, Swami Ramakrishnananda has written. What Swamiji, he says, Anitya drishyesha vivichya nityam. Tasmin samadhatta ihasma lileya. Very playfully. It's not at all a trouble. Which for us, oh no, this is name and form. I should not be deluded with this. I am pure consciousness. All this I have to bring it. And with great difficulty, I have to discriminate and keep myself away from it. And I have to make this practice again and again, so that immediately I will remember when there is a chance for me to fall, that I will not stumble and fall, but rather I will come back to my. So this sort of exercise and strain we have to do. But for Swamiji, Leelaya, smiling, with joy, he can discriminate and see the truth, what is in everything. Everything is a mixture of fight. As I told you, Satya and Ritam. What is Satya? What is truth? Asti Bhati Priya. It exists. It illuminates that its existence, and it brings bliss. And they are not the qualities, they are the very nature of the reality. Qualities come and qualities go. But it's the very nature. If it's very nature, it can never go. So everything, why does the world look so attractive? Because that reality is there under. Ram Prasad says, oh mother, I go behind your creation because it tastes sweet. Why does it taste sweet? Because Madhu Swarupa, Atman is the substratum of it. Madhu, we say. Madhu means sweetness. Atman is sweetness. Raso Vaisaha is the very essence. It's the bliss. That is why the world is blissful. If this world itself, with all its imperfections, can be so beautiful, so attractive, so pleasurable, what about that which is behind it? The Ramakrishna, the scriptures, Shankara is telling us, don't be satisfied with the, what I say? Those small things which are put in front of the granary. Puffed rice, nicely coated with ghee and jaggery. Just to save the granary food crops from the rats. So what the businessmen do, they put all that in front of the door, and the rats come in big number, and they start eating whole night. Katam, they keep on eating, and they don't even go into the granary. So much of grains are there. They could have enjoyed it, but they're happy with this. So that is why the scriptures tell us that within you is the mine of joy. Don't be satisfied with the trickles, what's coming. This is nothing compared to what you have within. It's high time that you go in. All this from time immemorial, you have been looking outside. Now look within and see the mine of joy which is in you. This is what the scriptures are trying to teach us. To go back to ourselves. We do not know from when we have been seeing this world of duality. Creation of creation. I'm not saying life after life. I always use this word. Creation of after creation. We have been coming. We have been just sucked in and thrown out. Avasham prakriter vashat. Helplessly we are thrown out. And then the manifold universe comes. Then we indulge in it. And we forget our true nature. And then this creation is taken back. So we all go back into the lap of Prakriti. And again, the Prakriti throws after billions and trillions of years back. Again, we have so many times this has happened. Innumerable time it has happened. Innumerable time we have had this body and I have been enjoying. Still there is no satiety. That's the pity.
Thank you, Mataji. And can I please ask, will you elaborate what Swami Ranganathananji was saying when he said at least practice for a few minutes at
This.
Sakshi?
Sakshi. Be aware, you are different from this. The whole 8 shlokas only dealt with this thing. Body, mind, intellect are not the Atman. I am not this. I am different from this. This is the gist. You are not matter. You are pure spirit. You are not body, mind, intelligent ego. You are the one who is enlivening it. You are the one who is giving life and light and joy to it. So, Atma Chaitanya Mashritya, borrowing the consciousness from the Atman, everything is being Tar Chaitanya, E Chaitanya, Sri Ramakrishna says. When Sri Ramakrishna was going into Samadhi, Shivnath Shastri said, oh, it is a disease. He becomes unconscious. You know, what disease is that? Epilepsy, something like that. So Sri Ramakrishna asked, oh, you say that my state is a disease. Day in and day out, you think of the unreal things, matter, and your intellect is very good. And I think of that Chaitanya, whose consciousness has the world is pervaded with, who enlivens, whose consciousness makes the world conscious. And thinking of that, I have become unconscious. This is, so Swami used to tell us when we were going for youth conventions, young little ones when we used to attend, so he used to ask us, learn to practice this witness consciousness, Sakshi awareness, even for a few minutes in a day. That will help you. At least if not, we will not be overpowered by the emotions, and the emotions will not take away us. That helps us, at least to check, at least for a few, pause and act. This comes through this practice. If we can practice for a few minutes and think of ourselves as pure light, which is lighting this whole body, that will be of very great help.
Thank you. And finally, Mataji,
it's all right. 3 months you won't be there. You better ask.
Your advice to the atheist doctor that before he died, he should study or read Vedanta. Vedanta is, of course, a vast array of knowledge. Do you recommend a particular text?
What are you doing? For 40 years, you have been listening. You have been listening for all this 40
Not
years.
Enough, obviously.
Yeah.
So, what were you thinking of telling him?
Because he was absolutely raw person. Absolutely raw. That is why at least we can't make him understand. So we ourselves are students. How can I help him? But Swamiji is there. Swamiji has put everything in the language which we can understand, that is English. So anyone can. Swamiji himself, that is why Swamiji has come. He says in one of his letter, to put all this bhakti, the psychology, this, what do you call this, yoga, and knowledge, all this is so intricate, so difficult. Put all this in simple words so that even a child can understand. That is the mission in my life. That is why I have come. And that's why Swamiji has done. Swamiji's complete works are really, it is a very good thing, you know, especially people who think they are aging, who feel that it's a challenge. So it's the best medicine for Alzheimer, I can say. Start thinking, it will make one to think. The Swamiji's complete work is a challenge. So those who start reading, their intellect will become, instead of learning new languages and doing all sorts of tricks to keep their mind, so let them read Swami Vivekananda's complete works. The buddhi will become, new leaves will come in the buddhi, you know, tender leaves will come. The older drooping tree will become again fresh, youthful when they read Swami Vivekananda's complete. Thank you.
Thank you. So this will be continued, the self-knowledge series of talks once a month. We'll look forward to having it continuing on for the next few months. This coming Thursday, we have the yoga class, I believe, from 10 a.m. On Friday night, we have the spiritual evening discussion. That'll be led by Pravrajika. And next Sunday, we've got a special event, the celebration of Sri Rama's birthday. We'll have talks by Devina Naya and Gayatri Panerjee with the PowerPoint presentations. And it'll end with some distribution of offered sweets and savories. So bring something to offer, some sweet or savory to offer. And thanks to those who joined us via Zoom today, and thanks to all of you who came in person.